Hello, I'm Ian Skelly, and welcome to the Wigmore Hall podcast. For April's podcast, we're joined by two composers, Héloïse Werner and Errollyn Wallen, and they're in conversation about contemporary music making. French-born soprano and composer Héloïse Werner is regarded as having a one-off approach to making music. She was recently appointed as a visiting research fellow in the creative arts at Merton College, Oxford, and she's also an associate artist here at Wigmore Hall. She's joined by Errollyn Wallen, Master of the King's Music, a Belize-born British composer and musician who's been named as one of the world's top 20 of the most performed living classical composers. Well, they joined us to discuss the approaches they take to music making and enjoyed a fascinating conversation, as you'll see. So, it's over to them.
Hello, I'm Errollyn Wallen, composer.
And I'm Héloïse Werner, composer and singer.
What's a good way in? Well, you could talk about what you're doing at Wigmore, couldn't you?
Okay.
How your year's been?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing since I've been appointed associate artist, because basically John sort of gives me free rein for programming and inviting collaborators, and, you know, he kind of trusts me, and it's amazing because then I can curate programs the way I want, and then people actually turn up as well, which is great. I think the audiences have been really, really good, and I've found that really encouraging to see that, you know, people do turn up for all kinds of programs and music, and sometimes on the program, you know, they were like quite niche things, and actually that's gone down really, really well, as well as, of course, some more well-known composers such as yourself. I've two of my, I'm just thinking out loud, but two of the concerts I've done as part of my residency. So the one last season and the first one, which was the previous season, both had a piece by you in it. So that's actually really lovely. Last season we performed Rain, and then the previous season, which was my first concert as associate artist, we did Tree, an arrangement of Tree that you made for us. So that's a really nice, And I was there for your for the performance of Gun Gun Gun. Yes. So did we do that at Wigmore as well? I can't remember.
No, sorry, I don't think you did. I think you did Tree. No, it was Tree.
We did Tree. I've done Tree actually a couple of times at Wigmore. I've done it once with the Hermes Experiment, and then once with the arrangement that you made for two voices when I did it with Helen Charleston, and then harp and piano, but you were not there for the performance.
What a shame. I'd have loved to. But you know what John told me? I mean, I think John Gilhooly has been such good news for Wigmore, because he's shown that you know, the tradition can start from now. I mean, we build traditions, and he's really broadened the audience. Well, certainly I've seen that when I've been to your concerts, but also John said that I'm the most performed living composer at Wigmore Hall, and I think it's through my songs. Isn't that extraordinary?
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, they are amazing songs. I love singing them, and I love hearing you singing them as well. In fact, when I was trying to learn both Tree and Rain, you know, I listened to your recording so much, because what's recorded and then what's on the page, you have to kind of find, you know, the way that you do them so beautifully. The flexibility in the vocal line, it's just, I love it.
And I hope it's not confusing, because actually those songs, I realise I do pull them about. And when I came to write them down, I was thinking, what's the best way? The way I perform them will change slightly from performance to performance, you know, the way you do. It's got, But anyway, thank you so much for all you've done for my music, Héloïse.
Of course. I mean, I was thinking actually, like, the first time we met was in Wales, wasn't it? For the day of, was it called Opera Sonic? I think it's Opera Sonic, yes. Yeah. Kind of creating a mini opera in a day, right?
That's right. And it was organised by Rhiannon Hutchings. That's what we had to pretty much improvise an opera. There's some music, I think, but a lot of improvisation. We just literally thrown in at the deep end and working with young people.
Yeah. I think I had to be some sort of like monster at some point, crawling around. I remember just like crawling around the room. And then there was another singer. Do you remember Adam?
Yes, yes, Adam. Was it Adam John Delius, I think his name is.
Yeah, something like that. Adam. Yeah. And it was really fun. And I remember thinking, who is this woman on the piano just kind of creating all this stuff and creating this amazing atmosphere? And then on the way back, we took the train back to London, I remember, and we really like got on the train back after that kind of really creative mad day of. And then because at the end of the day, we actually performed it in front of an audience, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah. And it was so scary that you weren't scared in a way. Do you know what I mean? We just had to just do it. But yeah, that was a fantastic day. And so much has happened since then. How long? Maybe it was about 10 years ago. What do you think?
Something like that, I would say. Yeah. Or perhaps a little bit less than, about 10 years ago. Because then after that, then I contacted you about writing for my group, the Hermes Experiment, which was the first. So that was the piece Gun, Gun, Gun that you wrote for the group, the commission that we performed. We performed that in 2019, January 2019, for our 5th year anniversary concert. And then from then, so much has happened still.
So much has happened. It's wonderful, though, isn't it? And I think that's the thing about contemporary music. It's led by performers and, composers, and that it's been lovely for me to see that sort of continuum of venue programmers, but the programming coming from the performers. In the case of your case in Hermes, that's how it always was, and I'm glad it. Do you know what I mean? There's, I think the first recital I went to was in Wigmore Hall. My uncle took me there.
Oh wow!
I would have been about 11 or 12, and we went to Chopin recital. But I remember the feeling there. It has always been considered this holy, sacred place of chamber music, which of course it is, but also now it's a place of great vibrancy of all sorts of different type, a broader range of musicians, just as excellent. But
completely.
Oh, I love that space. It's wonderful. The playing on stage is wonderful, and then being the audience is equally, the way you can hear everything.
I love it. It's amazing. And it looks, it's just beautiful to look at as well, And I think the space is so theatrical as well. I feel like there's so much. So that's why kind of quite intimate things that rely so much on words and or drama or communicating with the audience is really easy because it's very direct, and there is a sort of aura about it as well. Like you've got this kind of thing behind you that sort of make you kind of feel very kind of godlike almost, and there's this kind of vibrance, this atmosphere that I think
definitely
makes. And for things like contemporary music, where sometimes it has to be so, you have to be so listening so carefully to hear all the details, and you can hear every detail in that space, and it works for so many different types of music. But for contemporary music, it's really the dream.
And Héloïse, how do you split the different parts of your brain?
Yeah.
How do you approach it? I was thinking that today, because we all of us seem to have split ourselves into many different characters to get all this work done.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it drives me a bit mad, but actually I love it. It all complements each other, doesn't it? I can't really imagine myself actually just doing one of those things. I feel the most content and happy when I kind of go between the three things, because I think when I think of curating a program, obviously I think of the music and I think of the performance, and if I'm going to put a piece of mine in it or a new piece, that it's all linked. All kind of goes in one package in a way, and everything feeds the other, doesn't it? Which is so exciting. But it is, it's a lot sometimes actually, having to sort of navigate, and also just people, the people skills. So it's like definitely a roller coaster, I would say. But how do you find it as well? Because you're very much
Well, I think I made a decision yesterday that I've just got to make myself do the jobs I don't want to do, that I keep saying, oh, that's not important, something else to do. Because actually you just have to, I think you have to plan your time from further back. So, I'm doing a recital with Ruby Hughes at the end of, at Wigmore, at October 27th. So I'm really having to factor in learning new music and practicing. But meanwhile, I've got so much music to write, and so I'm having to spend, just factor in from months beforehand the practicing, so I'll be ready. But I don't, playing is a thing that sometimes I let go while I'm working. But as you say, using those different parts of the brain acts like sort of like a rest for the other part. So it means you can go from thing to thing. But you do have to, you have to, I always have to tell myself, please don't panic, just it goes to music.
Yeah, that's it. And the practice is definitely, I mean, I find it, if I don't really think about it, sometimes I might spend weeks without singing because I have got a big commission and suddenly actually I haven't properly practiced for a few weeks, and that's not great because you do need to sort of sing a little bit every day, even if it's 20 minutes a day. So I try, and if that ever happens, and as you say, it's nice sometimes to, you rest that part of the brain and you compose, and I can't do everything at the same time, but I do try to sort of have, even if it's 20 minutes, to make sure, like maybe first thing in the morning, if I have a big deadline and I have to immerse myself in this piece, then at least I know that every day at 10, between 10 and 10:20, I just do my kind of technique exercises. So that's done. And obviously when I do have big performances coming up, then I will spend more time practicing and learning the music.
Yes.
But for the vocal technique is something that if you kind of leave in the cupboard for too long, then it becomes a little bit problematic. Suddenly, if something, and then suddenly you have a big performance and you realize, oh, I haven't actually, I've left my instruments kind of, and I mean, it's nice sometimes to rest your voice, of course, but yes, I do sometimes have to kind of remind myself that I just have to kind of have a little routine, try to have a little routine, just to feel also a bit calmer when the concert does turn up and you're like, oh God, actually, I even if I've been mostly writing in the last few weeks, I've also kept the instruments alive a little bit.
Yes, because there's a consistency there, which I suppose is a bit kin to being an athlete. You just have to keep those muscles going. And I find even if I'm not performing, I will play every day because I'm on a lifelong quest to get my left hand better. I don't know if it's working, but it's also it's a different part of the brain, isn't it? That I think we need. You know what I mean? And it certainly reminds me as a composer what performers and the people I write for, what they have to go through. They have all their exercises before they even begin to look at the music they've got to learn.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. What's quite nice though is sometimes when I write vocal music, whether it's for myself or for other singers, I always sing while I compose. Yes. I mean, I always use my voice to compose. And so that's a very, very nice way to keep connected with my instrument, even if it's not, singing full voice or whatever, but I always try things out. And that's how I come up with certain melodies or rhythms, or I use it with my voice. Actually, even when I write instrumental music, I always sing kind of when I'm at the desk. So I really like that connection between my performance practice and my singing and the composing, because it really feels like it's a direct connection because I use it to write. And then, of course, when I get to sing what I've written fully in a performance, that I think that's when I'm the happiest because it's like, yes, I could kind of go for it completely. And I feel so free, I also obviously love performing other people's music, probably just as much, but it's a different kind of feeling. I feel like when it's my own stuff, I can feel totally free to really push it. Because obviously I've written it. I mean, how do you find that? Because you perform your own songs as well. And
well, it's interesting. On the programme, there's some Ives and some Benjamin Britten, and as well as songs of mine. And it's interesting. I'm not really practicing practicing mine at the moment, but I feel this great sense of responsibility when I'm playing other composers' works. That's what really makes me nervous. I think that's how I got into composing, because I thought if I write music for myself to play, then if I mess up, it's not the end of the world. Whereas I do think it's the end of the world if I mess up.
Yes, absolutely.
There's always that slight, that tension and responsibility. But the other thing that's happening is that by learning something really properly by another composer, it's also feeding my composer part of me. And does that happen to you?
Totally. I mean, I learned so much from learning music by other composers. I learned so much about performing, and I learned so much about composing, of course. And also, I think that's what's so great in being the composer performer, because you sort of, when you're composing, you also kind of imagine what might it feel like to perform this. And so I always have kind of my composer brain when I write, and also thinking practically, is this going to work, and having kind of experienced being on that side and what it feels like to perform this kind of material, then I can sort of put myself in the performer's head. So I'm always kind of, in a way, kind of switching back and forth a little bit in my brain when I'm composing. And that's why I often try and sing it myself. But yeah, I mean, for instance, when I perform your music, that's taught me so much about so many things, about performing and about writing, and about composing, and definitely is a kind of always learning by discovering new music by other composers. And I absolutely love that. Also the challenge, as you say, of trying to get something really accurate someone else has written, and then bring your own musicality and artistry on top of that, and take it to a level that you feel really happy with, and that the composer will feel happy with. But that sense of responsibility, I totally agree, especially when the composer's there in the room and you're like, oh, I'm so scared. So I'm even more scared. It's always like the first rehearsal, like for the first time they hear the piece for the first time in the rehearsal. That's always like, I would say when I'm the most nervous, because I'm like, oh God, are they going to be really, really disappointed, or are they going to be really happy, or, and actually then it's always so lovely to be able to have the composer in the room and really fine tune what they have in mind, and some things that on the page, it's sometimes so great to have the composer there to really talk about the ideas that they've put on the page and how they were measuring that. I mean, you must have that all the time. I mean, how do you find when you kind of write big orchestral pieces, and
Well, for example, so the piece for the first night of the proms, I went to, all those rehearsals that Maida Vale, then we went to Albert Hall. But I was mindful of the fact that the moment the composer's there, we can have a stifling effect, do you know what I mean? Because I feel you mustn't go there too soon, do you know what I mean? And you mustn't necessarily comment too soon. You just got to let, the conduct. I actually find orchestral rehearsals, they're quite difficult, because there's room, so many people in that room, and the conductor, and that's where the action is between the conductor and the orchestra. And I just think let everyone play, and just by letting them play, things get solved without you even saying anything. But it's quite a delicate thing. I don't always like it, do you know what I mean? And I always feel I shouldn't be there too soon.
I know what you mean. Yes, and sometimes also musicians need to have time to get familiar with the material and get comfortable with it, and practice it, and sometimes it just needs a bit of time to sink in. And I find that also when, for instance, with the Hermes experiment, when we have a new commission, like we never invite the composer, on our first run through of the piece. We need times first to get to understand it, to kind of work some things out, and who's going to lead this bit and who's going to, kind of practicalities, and sort of do some admin first on the piece. And then once we're at a stage where we feel happy to kind of present it to the composer, then the composer is good to have the composer in the room.
And that can be helpful to you. But, I'll always remember the performance of Gun, Gun, Gun. I don't think I haven't written a piece like that before, or probably won't since. I probably won't write another piece like that, but it was it's such a great combination, isn't it, of instruments that, yeah, you can do. And I remember spending so long, just was really, it just got me going. But I found the combination of instruments intriguing, and I see that it brings different things out of different composers, doesn't it?
Yes. We've had a lot of we've had over 60 composers writing for us so far, and each piece is totally different and individual, and that's what's been wonderful. So we'll be back at Wigmore Hall, not this season but the following season. We have a date in, and yeah, it's we always love playing at Wigmore as well, because it's like the kind of, it's just chamber music at Wigmore Hall is like a dream, isn't it? You can hear everything, and you can be so detailed in the way that you make music, which is something I really love. You can be so specific, and it's really looking forward to that.
What are you composing at the moment?
So this season I'm writing a lot of choral music, which is really nice actually, because I love writing for choirs, and being a singer, and I suppose having sung in choirs so much during my teenage years and then university years, it's something that comes quite naturally to me. So I really have fun doing it. I've just finished writing a piece for the Munich Radio Choir, which will be performed next May in Munich. And I've also written 2 other choral works, one for the choir of York Minster, which will be performed. It's like a carol. I had to write a carol in the middle of summer, which is bizarre.
I know. I've just written one. It's funny.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's the season, and you're like, oh my God, this is bizarre. But actually, I'm looking forward to, I love, carol concerts. And then I've also written a Nunc Dimittis for the choir of Clare College, Cambridge. And then I've got another choral work for Ars Nova Copenhagen. And then I've got a big piece for Wigmore Hall, which is maybe the most relevant for this podcast, for next July. I'm writing a big 20-minute piece for 5 singers and 3 cellists, which then I'll also record for my next album. So that's like, I guess that's the big one.
Yes.
I haven't started doing it, but I'm really, really looking forward to it, because it's a piece that I've been wanting to write for many years, being a cellist and a singer myself. And I've invited essentially all my favorite singers to take part in the project. There's Emma Nikolovska, Adele Charvet, Karim Suleiman, and James Newby. And I'll be the 5th singer. And then the cello trio with Colin Alexander and 2 other cellists, Petrus and Steph. And so that's something really nice to look forward to.
I must come to that, really. Yeah, those are great singers. And that's very exciting.
How about you? You must be writing many things.
Always writing. What am I doing? I'm writing a work, like essentially it's a community opera that will go to Alba next year. But also I'm involved, I've just started writing an opera for Opera Philadelphia, but except that there are 10 different composers. We're each writing a scene each, and I'm lucky because I've got scene 1, because I think so I can just dive in. And none of us know have the libretto for the other scenes. We have the synopsis, but so one of the composers, Nicky Muley and Missy Mazzoni, and I remember thinking, this is probably not ideal circumstances to make an opera, and it could be, could really not work, but I think I'm doing it because it's...
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, I think it is exciting. And then, but yes, I've got some operas that are actually, my little opera for children, Cautionary Tales, is going to receive its Irish premiere on tour next week. And then, there's another opera, Dido's Ghost, is going to...
Oh, brilliant.
Boston. But see, my problem at the moment, I'm writing a lot of music for things I can't actually get to the performance for. It's getting a bit frustrating. There's a few pieces I've even have not heard live. There's one I've never heard actually performed.
Right.
But it's it's weighing up what you've got to write, and then where you go, how you get to the performances.
Yes. Do you, when those performances or rehearsals are happening kind of on the other side of the world, do you sometimes join on Zoom or things like that, or not really?
Yes, and I try and ask for. So I wrote something for Black Oak Ensemble, and that was a little trio, and they sent me a rehearsal, which was good,
Recording.
rehearsal
Yeah.
recording, and then just because they were about to record it as well. So it is still very useful. I mean, we're lucky to have the technology. And say for Opera Philadelphia, we're doing the workshop in October the 6th, and I was trying to book my flights, and the more I looked at it, I thought, I just can't justify the travel. Do you know what I mean? So I'll do that over Zoom because
Okay.
I'm trying to protect the space of writing, writing so much. But I feel at the moment, what's interesting, getting ready for the Wigmore recital, I feel in a really good groove because I look forward to the practicing and the playing because it's real and tangible and enjoyable and physical. And the composing, which is equally enjoyable, but it's a slower process.
Yes.
My songs are written when I was in my 20s and for no good reason. And they were sort of a bit in the corner. And then gradually I plucked up the courage to sing them. But the thing is, other people sing them much more than I do. And that gives me such happiness. Do you know what I mean? Because it means they're properly out in the world then.
Yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing about composing is that once you've written something, it's there forever. I was thinking about that the other day. I mean, not to sound sort of too philosophical or grand or whatever, but like the difference between performing and then writing. And for me, like one of the main I mean, I love performing and like in the moment, it's amazing and it's, you feel it so much and you experience something once and then it's done. And sometimes it's months and months of preparation and it happens over an hour and then it's gone. And it's an amazing feeling. And, I will never want to stop doing it. But on the other side, you've got the composing where you also have months and months of work, but then it's there and the score is there or in whatever format. And then it can be performed by other people. It can be, I was just looking through some music I've written a few years ago that people were interested in some of my pieces. So I was just kind of going through scores of what might be suitable for them. And I was looking through some of the things that I hadn't looked at for a few years. And I was like, oh, actually, yeah, I did write that. And I actually quite like that. And it'd be really nice if that was performed again by a different group.
Yes.
And that's something really nice about composing it. It's sort of a bit like a recording as well, when you record something and then it exists in that form that has a long life after it's been kind of put out in the world. And it's really nice.
It's like a little miracle, isn't it? It's just, I think has got to be one of the most exciting things being a composer, that like your little children go off into the world and and we see performances like my Northern Lights is going to be performed in Copenhagen, I think. Is it this week? No, next week. And I won't go to it, I've actually not been invited to rehearsals, but it's lovely to think that through notation, there's this language that communicates, to all those other musicians, you know what I mean? And will have a life and that we don't have to be there.
Exactly. And when we're not there anymore as well, I mean, we leave something behind, it's, I don't know, that's a very nice, sort of every time I write a piece, it's sort of like, I just put that in the world and then who knows, for how long this will be performed or maybe it will never be performed again. But actually it's just, the kind of the possibilities with it is what's really beautiful. And it is really nice when you get contacted about this piece that you haven't thought about for a while and actually is having a rebirth somewhere else in the world. And as you say, you can't necessarily get to it, but it's nice to know that people are bringing it to life in their own ways.
Exactly. And I don't know, I suppose that's, to me, it's quite a spiritual dimension as well, isn't it? And so, I'm learning this music by Ives, and there's a few things in the notation that aren't really clear, but I'm getting to understand his spirit. You know what I mean? His scores compared to Britain, everything is very, very clear always. With Ives, he's imagining and dreaming all these atmospheres and all these worlds colliding at the same time. And he's tried his best. At one point, he says, yes, this is very hard to do on piano, but you feel that he's writing music that is almost beyond what he can notate, but you feel close to him, you feel close to his character and his dreaming, so it's inspiring in that way. But yeah, I wish more people would realize that notation is just an incredible thing to have and makes you truly independent. You don't. I remember the early days that you'd go along and sing something to somebody, or because your notation wasn't that clear, so you'd sing that.
Yeah, it's true, and being able to put it down in this notation, and then it is universal. Someone else can pick it up and bring it to life. Yeah, that's
it's
true.
Also interesting how different groups can interpret the same thing in so many different ways, and you just can't get away from the fact that each musician, each acoustic has its own properties, and things are always different.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your musical inspirations? Who are your musical inspirations? Because you're one of my musical inspirations.
Héloïse, why is that?
I don't. Well, I watched your proms piece on TV, which I really enjoyed this year. Like the
elements,
for the first night, yeah. And I was thinking, what is it about Errollyn's music that's so unique? And it's just, I can actually sort of really hear you in your music. Like I can sort of your beautiful personality and sort of radiance is there in your music. It's so. I can't really explain very well, but it warms my heart. I can just sort of see all these kind of ideas, and your character, I think, really comes alive in your music, and it goes from this to this, and it's beautifully linked. And I loved the kind of, I thought also it was beautifully pitched for the first night of the proms. It's just so joyful, and it just made me smile, instantly. And I think it made everyone smile. You can see the orchestra really enjoying it as well, which is really, really nice to see, like a kind of big symphony orchestra having fun in a new piece. But I think why you inspire me is your capability of going through all these different, like you write songs that you perform at the piano, and you also write these big orchestral works, and you have sort of a very big kind of musical palette and colors that you use in your music, kind of as and when, but it's so unique. It's very you. And that's what really inspires me. It's like, it's Errollyn, I could actually, if I hear something on the radio that I don't know, a piece of yours that I don't necessarily know, often I actually know that it's you because I recognize your, your kind of, it's very distinctive. And I love the fact that you've done it for so long, you've done your thing, and you've got where you've got to, which is an incredible, place to be in, as you've had such an amazing career, you've done so much, and your recordings as well. There's kind of such a variety of styles and different collaborators, and I think that's something that I was really inspired by quite early on when I was starting out, and I was a bit, like I didn't really fit in the sort of. I didn't imagine myself doing opera school and just doing that way, and I knew that I loved composing, and I had all these musical things that I wanted to express, and I wanted to combine them in some ways, and seeing someone like you who had that, that kind of multifaceted career and managed to kind of still be a very kind of unique kind of personality and musician that you instantly know that's Errollyn, kind of forging your kind of bubble. Don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is that, Héloïse, I never set out to. What I mean is, I don't think about creating my own voice. It's more, so But there was, like you, there were things I wanted to do, and at the time, people weren't doing those sort of things. But the need to do these things was so great in me. I just sort of carried on. I remember somebody saying to me, "This is not how you do things. You've got to wait till you're asked." And you mustn't just form your own group. You mustn't perform your own music. You've got to wait for somebody. And I thought, but I'd be waiting. I'd still be waiting.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. I feel like people like you can tell when someone's really truthful to what they're doing. It's not an act. You know, and you could tell straight away when someone's just trying to be this or that, and well, that has a limit. It doesn't work out because you just got to follow your own voice, like your own, but without trying too hard. You know, it's just, and I think that's what I really loved about you. When I first met you, I just immediately got that from you, that it was very, what's the word? Not honest, but like.
Real,
or sort of, it's like totally real. There's no performance about it, you know. It's not like a.
But what I was thinking, you know, for us both, there's this idea of building a career, and you can be in control of some of it, and some of it you really are not in control of. Do you know what I mean? But what you are in control of is, you know, developing yourself and sort of surrounding yourself with the musicians you want to, you know, just the work of it, the practice, the thinking, all of that. That is the most important thing, isn't it? And the daily, you know, questioning. And to me, that is real. And, you know, success is a wonderful thing. But I also remember the early days when the same music was there, but it wasn't really taken seriously, you know, or it was at the fringes, and that's fine too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so the only touchstone I've ever had is just myself to think about what it is I want to do, and you know, and what music means to me, which is why I'm doing it. But I also understand that fashions come and go, and people, you know, I know many composers, for example, my age, older, who gave up, you know, composing because they felt that there wasn't a place for them, or, you know, they'd fallen out of fashion, and that's hard, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I'd like to think you and I would still continue somehow, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think so. But also, what's been really amazing in the last couple of years for me is, well, for instance, you know, the fact that John contacted me essentially, you know, out of the blue, offering me this associate position to support me, and that's a wonderful thing when you do your thing, and actually people do take notice, and people do think it's worth it, and they invest in you and support you back, and that's been so wonderful to, you know, to have this position and being able to perform here and curate concerts, and knowing that you're backed up by people, you know, by people out there, and help you develop further. So I'm really, really grateful to John for that, because it's really opened up some doors for me as well, you know, just performing here regularly, and being able to invite collaborators to join me on these performances, and having that platform to experiment and search further about what is it that I want to express. So that's
yes, I mean, it's very hard, especially in the early days, to get, you know, true support, and somebody like John, you know, he's broadened things up so that the new things are really truly exciting, and that people want them, don't they? They want them.
And actually, it's been so nice to see, as you say earlier, the audiences have been so good for my concerts, and really varied, like young people, older people, and that's I've been so chuffed about that, because it feels like it's a positive step forward, you know, and I think I know John is really happy about that, like the way that the audiences here have evolved, and that and that's due to his programming and his faith in artists, and kind of this kind of artist-led programming, which is fantastic. Well, it's been so nice to chat to you, Errollyn, today, as ever.
Yes, it's been lovely to speak with you, and I can't wait to see you in person soon.
Me too.
Thank you to Héloïse, Werner and Errollyn Wallen for that lovely conversation. If you'd like to hear Héloïse in performance, then you can join her, the Early Chorus Cello Ensemble, and a host of other singers on Friday the 17th of July for an evening of exciting new music at Wigmore Hall. And also in the summer, the soprano Gwyneth Ann Rand and the pianists Alison Devonish and Simon Lepper will perform works by Errollyn Wallen as part of their Migrations programme. That's on Thursday the 23rd of July. Thank you for watching. and do come back for more.